All right, with that, Mr. Owens, you may continue your inquiry, sir.
Just based on the court statements, identification A, I'd like to, this is one of the photographs that we introduced. Is this injury to your ear?
Yes.
And then this is your living room. This is identification C, the blow up.
Yes.
Identification D. TV.
Yes.
Identification E. Is that your arm?
Yes.
Identification F. Is that your knife wound?
Yes.
Identification G. Is this the curtain rod?
Yes.
Identification H. This is the eye. Identification I. See your face shot
Yes.
with the lip and the eyebrow. Identification B. And this is the back patio, the dogs.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna bounce a little bit, Ms. Boone. Let me go back to the night earlier in the evening when I think y'all may have been out on the back patio and you had suggested to George to call the children, but then I think, did he call his brother or his brother called George? Do you remember?
George called his brother.
Okay. And you made a statement about tell him something. Explain that to the jury.
I told him to tell his brother about you choking me the other day. This is a separate choking incident. We had been drinking, and I wanted George to tell him, but he didn't tell him, so I said it in the background, so he would be aware.
What did you tell him?
Tell him why you choked me, or that you choked me.
Okay. Now, you heard the testimony of the two neighbors, the boys that lived next to you,
Yes,
and you heard that they were actually questioned. I think the audio They were audio interviewed. You heard from Detective Copsel. I think it was a couple of days later on the 25th of February, or 27th of February.
Yes,
And you heard their testimony earlier this week,
yes,
where they hear a kind of a thumping sound starting at the top of the steps, ending at the bottom.
yes,
Have they got the night wrong?
yes.
Explain to the jury that.
So it was the night before. Again, I was sleeping, and in the middle of the night with the door barricaded, he came in and ripped me out of the bed. And first got me with one hand, and then got both hands and pulled me completely off of the bed. And then, like a caveman, had my hair like this and was going down the stairwell, taking me with him to come downstairs so I could sit and drink with him.
Do you believe that's the noise that the two neighbor boys heard,
I absolutely do.
and it was just the night before?
Correct.
Now, some of the time when this abuse occurred, you called the police,
Yes,
and other times the police were not called.
correct.
I want to refer to you the first time, I believe, you mentioned the 911 call. I believe that was July 25th of 2018.
Yes,
And that was the incident in which Georgia kicked you in the eye,
stomped me, yes.
stomped you in the eye. And you had grabbed his neck.
Yes, I was able to get my arms out from him pinning me down with his knees and grab his neck.
So law enforcement came and investigated,
Yes,
and both of you were arrested.
correct.
Do you recall asking the officer when you were arrested, why am I being arrested?
Many times, yes.
Do you recall asking the officer, why am I being arrested?
Yes,
And do you recall making any other statements to law enforcement as to why you did what you did to George?
that was the first time ever that I actually officially fought back.
Did you tell the officer that you were fighting back?
Yes, because I was complete shocked that I was getting arrested because of it.
Now, on the 2-minute video, the suitcase video, you mentioned to him, I think you said something, I can't breathe. He said, I can't breathe, and you said, that's how I feel when you're choking me. Were you referring to an isolated incident of the night before, 2 nights before, or whatever, or were you referring to in general?
In general, the more than 2 or 3, 4 times that he had done it.
Okay. And then the point about cheating, he didn't physically cheat on you.
No, he did not.
Okay. And just, I don't want to go into a lot of detail, but what are you referring to there?
George was, I believe, addicted to pornography, and a lot of that would be found on my phone from him supposedly wanting to call up job interviews. And as a solution, I sat him down and I explained to him, to me, that's you visualizing yourself with someone else, or at least having a pleasurable moment with someone else or watching other people. And to me, I told him that I considered that cheating on me.
Okay. And so he would download that on your phone?
Yes.
Why did you stay with him?
As,
You got to tell the jury.
as anyone who has ever been in love, or when you love someone, or primarily someone or something, you go above and beyond, and you tolerate and you endure and you persevere, and you try to make that person as spectacular as you possibly can, no matter the sacrifice that you may have to go through, to serve someone else in a positive light so they can be better people for themselves, and to just make them a happier person. And love is very strong, and love is very deep, and love, I believe, is not fully understood in a lot of ways for how different people react to it. And I very much, deeply, and passionately love George. I love him to this day.
Did you not want to be alone?
Beginning through my divorce, it was very nice to have him around, and he was a man to me, and I felt protected, and he was very nice, and as lame as it sounds, he used to compliment me, and it made my day. So, yes.
During that period of time, when you first started seeing George, would it be fair to say that you had low self-esteem?
Yes.
Now, we talked about this previous arrest where you told the officer you were fighting back and you got arrested. Now, I want to talk about your conversations with law enforcement, but first I want to ask you, why did you go to the police station that day when you were interrogated there? We saw the 2-hour video. Tell the jury.
The day of the incident, the detective Copsell gave me her business card with her personal cell phone number on it, and said if I happened to remember anything or anything that I would like to add to the day, for me to not hesitate to give her a call. So throughout the rest of the evening, something was off. I didn't feel comfortable with what she told me and how she told it to me.
How long were you at the scene?
Gosh, all day, from the moment that they were there to the moment that the coroner's van drove off.
All right, when it ended, did you stay in your home?
No, I raced inside and collected some pajamas and a toothbrush, and I went over to where my son was at my ex-husband's house.
Did you take the dogs?
I didn't even feed them. It was so fast.
All right, and then once you got over to your ex-husband's, what happened? As it relates to Detective Copsell.
Something just wasn't sitting right with me, and I had a suspicion that she just wasn't being honest with me, so I took it upon myself.
Sustained.
So you called her. Tell us about that.
I called her and I told her that I felt that she was being dishonest with me. She originally had told me that due to her being pregnant, it would just be a lot easier for her to have me come down to the station to pick up my phone. The original plan was for she and Detective Loman to return the phone to my apartment. But she said that it would be a lot easier for me to just come down and pick it up, because I remember when I was pregnant. That's what she said. You remember when you were pregnant? So I said, I feel that you're tricking me, and I feel that you're being very sneaky about something, and I don't believe that you're being honest with me. And I said, regardless, I'm still going to come.
Sustained.
So you agreed to come, but you understood it was to get your phone?
Correct.
All right, you came that afternoon to the station,
I did.
and the original agreement was they were to come to you.
Correct.
All right. When you got to the station, what happened?
I thought I was just going to be picking up my phone. My car was there. I had everything in my car. It was just a regular, I'm just going to go in, maybe sign something and pick up my phone. And there's people that are over here at the windows, and I thought that I was supposed to go over there to get my phone. And Detective Lowen came down and said that my phone was upstairs. So if I would just follow him upstairs, that's where my phone was. And then I was taken into I guess it was an interrogation room, and they told me to sit down, and that then I guess the interview or interrogation began, and I just simply was getting my phone.
Sarah, tell the jury why.
Yes. You may proceed.
Ms. Boone? Ms. Boone? Tell the jury why you lied to the police.
I lied to the police, basically everyone, because I was extremely fearful of being arrested. I made the first attempt of me calling 911 by telling them what happened, and I thought they were going to help me, but instead I was arrested for calling 911.
So you made the decision to lie.
I did.
Did you stay with that lie?
I did.
Are you telling the truth today?
I am.
Now let me take you back to the to this incident. Is it fair to say that when Jorge Torres is sober, he commits no violence against you?
No.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Is it fair to say that every time that he's intoxicated, or every time that you're hit by him or harmed by him, it's when he's intoxicated?
Yes.
As a result, when he's drinking, does it change your outlook?
Yes.
Could you explain that to the jury?
I'm always fearful, paranoia.
Why?
Because I try to protect and defend myself for fear something happens at the last ultimate second.
But you're always that way, fearful. Is it because of these prior incidences?
Absolutely.
Do you try to placate him?
All the time.
What do you mean?
With the puzzles and the painting and feeding the ducks across the way at the pond, listening to music, trying to go for a walk on the trail, anything that I possibly can. I told you I was running out of things to entertain him with.
Why do you think George, what bothers him?
Objection, officer speculation.
Sustained.
Does he tell you?
Objection, calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
As a result of how he behaves towards you in that intoxicated state, how were you feeling the night of this event?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Extremely nervous, anxiety galore, just, I can never relax.
when he's drinking.
Yes.
And the state of intoxication that he was at the time of this event, is that the state that scares you the most?
It's the tone, yes. There's a lot of alarms and red flags that go on throughout the day or night or whenever it is that we are drinking.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sustained.
Tell us about that. How that heightens, does that heighten your sense of safety,
At all times.
but especially when he's drinking?
Oh, yes, all the time.
And then his mood?
Yes, it depends on what mood he's in that day.
Well, do you have like a sixth sense of how he's doing?
Yes, I knew George very well.
Objection, non-responsive. Yes or no?
Sustained.
Can you tell us what you mean by that? Sixth sense, or knew him very well?
I guess you could say that I was trained by fear with him. Just, it wasn't fun anymore when we would drink and we would hang out on the back porch. It wasn't fun anymore because I knew inevitably that something was going to happen to me, one way or another.
Miss Boone, you know, those bruises that we saw of him, they look pretty deep. Tell the jury what you were thinking.
From the bat, you're
Yes.
saying? I didn't want to die that night. I can't describe it to you. It's terrifying love to a certain degree, where my plan was to show him the next day, and just, I wanted him to be better and treat me nicer and be the person that he was when I originally met him, and I knew that was in him still. I knew that it could be found, and I just couldn't figure out what it was that I was doing wrong in order for it to not be back to where that was. And I was tired of living in fear and just sick all the time of figuring out how I can entertain him so I don't die, and continue a relationship with my son and try to live a normal life. That wasn't a normal life for me. And just, bottom line is I didn't want to die. I would have died, or I would have been disfigured or maimed, or if it weren't me with the bat, it would have been him, if he were to have gotten out.
That's all.
Any cross-examination?
Did George know somebody named Crystal? Did you ever mention Crystal in your text messages about being one of his bitches?
I don't know. I don't remember.
How about Christine? Did George know a Christine?
I don't know.
How about a Pamela Erickson?
These may have been people that he was communicating with on whatever the platform was.
On your phone?
I believe so, yes.
And did you find these communications?
I believe I found one or two of them from some of them.
And did you send a long letter to his family to relay to him about George and his girls that he was cheating on you with?
I believe so.
Okay, so you do know those names, right?
I don't remember them. It's been however long.
Okay. Now, on February 24th, 2020, you called 911 at about 1 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And at that point, you were still feeling a little intoxicated, were you not?
It was more shock, but yes.
So you agree that you previously stated, I was still, I believe, intoxicated to a degree?
To a degree, yes.
So 1 p.m., it's about 14 hours after 11 p.m. the night before, correct?
I'm guessing so.
Well, 12 hours prior would be 1 a.m., and then 12 a.m. is 13 hours, 11 p.m. is 14 hours, correct?
Okay.
And you were present here for the medical examiner, Dr. Zadovich, to testify, correct?
Yes.
And you heard her talk about all the effects of ethanol that has on the human body, correct?
Yes.
And she also mentioned something that it, on average, dissipates at about 0.015 an hour. Do you recall that?
I believe so.
Okay. So, would it be fair to say that if you're still feeling the effects of the alcohol at 1 p.m., so that's 14 hours, 0.015, you were at approximately about a 0.21 at 11 p.m. the night before. Do you feel like you were 2.5 times the legal limit at that time?
I don't know how you came to that number.
Judge, I'm going to object.
Roach. You may proceed.
So you testified earlier that you all had about half of one of these bottles left from the night before, correct?
Yes.
And so would you agree that this is one of the 3 bottles that was purchased between February 22nd and the 2 that were purchased on February 23rd of 2020?
I'm guessing
Okay.
maybe it's like the bottle, yes.
All right, and it's 1.5 liters, would you agree? And when you say half, are we talking about to the top of the label was left from the day before?
Oh, goodness, no.
All right, a little less, halfway through the label?
It's too, right about.
Okay, about halfway through the label. So in addition to halfway through the label, which you began consuming after going to public at about 12:15, correct? So you all would have began consuming around 12:30, is it fair to say, when you got back?
I can't tell exactly.
Okay. And after finishing what you all had left over from Saturday, the two of you consumed two 1.5 liter bottles, correct?
I'm not sure about the second bottle that he purchased, if it was empty or not at the time.
Well, you did mention that the police would find two empty bottles in the top of your trash, correct?
Yes.
And we did all see that in the photographs, correct?
See that they
Two.
were empty in the garbage, yes.
All right, and you say you were about 100 pounds at the time?
Yes.
And we all know Mr. Torres was 103 pounds at the time of his death, correct?
That's what he said.
All right, so that's 3 liters of wine between 200 pounds split between two people over the course of a day, correct?
Yes.
And you testified today that you were intoxicated at the time that this occurred, the videos between 11 and 11:30 at night, correct?
Yes, at some level, yes.
All right. Now, what does that mean to you? Previously, have you indicated that that means the room is spinning? Do you ever recall saying that?
I do.
So what was your level of intoxication at this point in time when the first video was filmed at 11:12 p.m.?
Do you mean from lack of sleep or alcohol?
From the alcohol.
What was my level?
What were you feeling? Did you have trouble with your balance?
I was more tired than anything.
Did you have trouble with your balance?
I don't believe so.
So you were able to flip a suitcase over with a 100-pound man in it, right?
I mean, yes, it happened,
Okay. How about your speech? Do you feel like your speech was slurred?
clearly.
How about your inhibitions? Do you feel like you were doing things that you wouldn't do when you were sober?
I wasn't thinking about that.
Well, on reflection, do you feel like this is something you would have done when you were sober?
I didn't know me and George.
I'm just asking you, looking back on this, when he's in the suitcase and you're telling him how you feel, and then you wait 11 minutes and you film another 22 seconds, and then you go upstairs, upon reflection, is that something you would have done and left him in there had you not been drinking?
I don't know. I can't say.
Okay.
If I was scared, then it would be something.
Okay. All right. Now, today you testified about the time frame between the two videos, correct?
Yes?
So you came down from the shower where you were hiding, correct?
Yes?
And as you're coming down the stairs, before you even get to the bottom of the stairs, you can kind of see over your shoulder or towards your right that he's trying to hide in the suitcase, correct?
Yes.
And the lid is down, but it's not closed, and you can tell he's hiding in there. It's not a great hiding spot just yet, right?
Correct.
And so you come over to him, and you're laughing, right?
Yes.
And you move the suitcase around some before zipping it shut, right?
No.
No? You immediately zip it shut?
Yes.
Okay. And you're both still laughing about it, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then it's during this course of time, how quickly is it after you zip it shut that you begin filming the first video?
I don't know without watching it. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, the video's not going to catch you zipping him up because you're like 10 feet away, right? How quickly after you zip him up is it before the video starts, is my question.
I don't know.
Okay. And then during that 9 minutes and 14 seconds is when he begins to get angry, correct?
What, 9 minutes?
Between the two videos, there's 9 minutes and 14 seconds between the end of 1061 and the beginning of 1062 and 1063. So you got the 2 minute, 3 second video that starts at 11:12:45, correct?
I guess.
Permission to use state 17?
You may.
All right, so we're looking at entry 31107. That indicates, according to the phone extraction, 2/23/2020, 11/12:45 p.m., image underscore 1062 movie begins being captured. And we have seen that that is about 2 minutes and 3 seconds. Entry 31113 indicates that image underscore 1063.move disconnected. Okay. 31113, a second movie is captured at 11:23:03 p.m. Your testimony was that after that first video was captured by your phone and you, Mr. Torres began getting angry and trying to push his way out, correct?
Say it one more time, please.
Between these two movies, of which there's about 9 minutes and 14 seconds, Mr. Torres begins to get angry and try and push his way out and get out of the suitcase, correct?
He had been angry on and off throughout the entire day.
Okay. You didn't tell us that earlier. You said it was a wonderful, fun day all day, correct?
That's because I lived.
Okay. But you did not tell us earlier today that he had been angry throughout the day.
When would I say that?
You described your entire day of doing puzzles and arts and crafts and outside by the dartboard, and you said it was a wonderful day and everything was fun until he was in the suitcase. Did you not testify to that earlier today?
I did.
Okay. My specific question between these two movies is, this is when he begins to get angry and trying to push his way out and to get out of the suitcase, correct?
Angry again, yes.
Okay. And he was expressing his anger in what manner? How did he say this?
At which point throughout the day?
Ma'am, you know very well that I'm talking about between these movies. Please answer my question. Between these two movies, how did he express his anger with you?
Told me that I was going to fucking die.
Okay. Now this is happening after he's already told you several times he cannot breathe in the suitcase, correct?
Correct.
And he's been in there for whatever brief amount of time it took you to zip him up, and the laughter stops, and then you go over and begin to film, correct?
Yes.
And you're filming, your purpose of filming is to kind of teach him a lesson. This is your chance to say something to him when he can't say anything back to you, correct?
No.
Then correct me.
There was no lesson to be learned. It was just I wanted him to try to understand how I felt so maybe he could progress in being a better person the next day.
So you wanted him to understand how you felt in the past, and that's not teaching a lesson?
I just wanted him to understand.
Okay. All right, and so immediately prior to zipping him up and putting him into the movie, you had been upstairs, correct?
I'm sorry?
Immediately before coming down and zipping him up and then filming the first of the two movies, you had been upstairs in the shower, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to publish what has been labeled as image underscore 1061, which according to the timeline was captured at 11:03 p.m., 31 seconds with her device. All right. Does this appear to be the suitcase that's in question in the two movies that are filmed at 11:12 and 11:23 p.m.? No? This is image 1061 taken at 11:03 p.m. 31 seconds. Does this appear to be the blue suitcase that's in the two videos that were captured at 11:12 and 11:23 p.m.?
Correct.
Did you take this image at 11:03 p.m.?
I don't remember if I did or not.
And again, we had, and by we I mean you and Mr. Torres, two 1.5 liters bottles of wine and plus whatever was left over from the day before, correct?
That's correct.
So you don't remember taking this photograph?
I don't.
Do you remember whether or not Mr. Torres was in here?
I don't remember taking the photo.
Okay. So, what is your memory of what happens between 11:03 p.m. and 31 seconds when that image is captured, and then when the movie starts at 11:12:45? What do you remember?
I don't.
Okay. Do you remember anything from that night?
I do.
You told the police on February 25th, 2020, when they first showed you the video, that you didn't remember taking that. You remember that?
I do.
And your testimony is you do remember taking that video,
I do.
but you don't remember taking that photograph 9 minutes prior.
Correct.
Is there something, did you have more to drink in those 9 minutes?
I did not.
Was Mr. Torres in that suitcase the entire time between 11:03 when that image was taken and then when the second video was taken at 11:23 p.m.?
I believe so, yes.
So for 20 minutes? Yes?
However long the time frame is.
Did he begin telling you that he couldn't breathe before the video, or do you not remember?
I don't remember.
Now, you testified moments ago that your two neighbors must have misremembered which night the loud noise was, correct?
Yes.
And now you're telling us that you don't remember taking the photograph at 11:03 p.m., correct?
Correct.
Did the police come out to your townhouse on Sunday, February 23rd, 2020?
Yes.
I'm talking about Sunday. This is the Sunday fun day when we're going to Publix twice. Were the police out at your residence?
No.
It was the day after, Monday the 24th, correct?
Yes.
And that Monday morning, you called 911, well, Monday afternoon at about 1 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And between that time frame, you were the only person in your apartment plus Mr. Torres in the suitcase, correct?
Yes.
So if anything had been disturbed in your apartment, you had all the time that you wanted to undisturb them before calling 911, correct?
If I wanted to.
Okay. And you still, your testimony is there was no loud boom that shook the walls of your townhouse at about 11 p.m. the night of February 23rd, 2020, correct?
Correct.
To the best of your memory, correct?
Correct.
Now, that second video is 22 seconds where you just hear him say Sarah and you don't say anything. You're familiar with that video, correct?
Yes.
It's after that that you go upstairs, correct?
Yes.
How quickly is it that you go upstairs after that?
It was pretty quick.
Can you grab the dogs?
No, the dogs were upstairs already.
Okay. Did you call 911 and let the police know that you had zipped somebody shut in a suitcase and they had not been able to get out for 20 minutes?
I did not.
Did you go to Brian's house and tell him, I had to zip Mr. Torres up in a suitcase shut? We need to do something about that before he passes.
I believe that's what the phone call was.
Okay. Well, what do you remember now about the phone call with Brian?
I know that I called him. I don't know specifically what it was about.
Now, your testimony, it seems like you spend day after day finding things to entertain Mr. Torres to do, correct?
Yes.
Almost like having a child. You have your own child, correct?
I do.
What you described sounded like having a small child, would you agree?
That's your interpretation.
Okay. Well, you take him from doing arts and crafts to doing puzzles, so on and so forth, correct?
When he's been drinking, yes.
And Mr. Torres was notorious for doing some of these things, correct?
What do you mean?
Well, you described Mr. Torres as being notoriously known for doing things. You described your ex-husband, Brian Boone, notorious for doing things like nagging and calling all the time. You remember your testimony calling people notorious for doing things?
Yes.
What would you say people would say you're notorious for?
I don't know.
And you would not answer Brian Boone, your ex-husband's phone calls, just so that you could let him know that you're busy and you have things going on, correct?
I knew that at whatever time it was that he was calling me, that he could wait for the few moments of me getting up to where Lucas gets out of school at 3 o'clock.
Okay. But you wouldn't return his call. You would let him call several times, correct?
That day, yes.
Okay. How about other days? Would he have to call to remind you to get Lucas on other days?
He wasn't reminding me, he was just making sure that Lucas was covered for a pickup or drop-off.
All right. You didn't mention to the sheriff's office either February 24th or February 25th about going to Publix with Mr. Torres at noon or 12:17, did you?
I don't recall.
So the best evidence of that would be the recording of those interviews?
Correct.
Did you not remember going to Publix with Mr. Torres that day?
At what point?
At any point?
No, I didn't.
You had indicated to the police that it was about 4 p.m. that you all had started drinking after doing chores. You recall that?
I do.
And your testimony today was that it was really more after you guys went to Publix at about 12:17 p.m., correct?
Yes.
And you did not tell the truth to the police, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
You did not tell the truth to the police about that, correct?
I did not.
And when they were asking you about Mr. Torres's injuries, you told them that you had nothing to do with it, correct?
Yes.
And that was not the truth.
Correct.
What did you all have for breakfast on the 23rd?
I don't remember.
Did you all have lunch?
I believe we had leftovers from, I think, something that we had in the fridge.
And do you recall what those were?
No, not at this point, no.
And then I believe you mentioned having a sandwich of some sort for dinner?
No, I believe it was for, I'm guessing he and I ate at the same time.
And at one point, Mr. Torres called his brother Juan, correct?
Yes.
And do you admit that you were yelling in the background, telling Mr. Torres to tell his brother that he had been choking you?
I don't know if I was yelling. I know that he could hear me through the phone.
Okay. So how long had that been going on that day? When did you start getting on Mr. Torres about choking you in the past?
He and I had had conversations about it because he didn't remember doing it to me. And the next day and the day of,
Is it fair to say that there are just points in time where you don't remember what you do either, correct?
are you talking about almost 5 years ago?
I'm talking about from drinking. Is it fair to say that you don't often remember things that you did while you were drinking?
I would not say often.
Okay. In the course of your relationship with Mr. Torres, are there things you don't remember happening that happened the night before between you and him?
I can't say that at this point.
But you said that you don't remember taking that photograph at 11:03 p.m. on February 23rd, correct?
Yes.
Was there anything else that you were telling Mr. Torres that he needed to tell his brother?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. Was there anything you were telling him that he needed to tell his daughters?
Not that I can recall.
Now, you indicated that Mr. Torres would use your phone to look at pornography.
Correct.
Were there ever any points in times when it was you that was used looking at pornography?
If I was, it was to go back and look to see.
Did you ever threaten to get Mr. Torres arrested if he did not do what you wanted him to do?
I wouldn't say threaten.
Okay. Well, were there ever points in times where you would like him to call you or return a call, and if he didn't do that, you would threaten to get him arrested?
It depends on if he had my keys or something that I needed from him.
Okay. And it was your townhouse, correct?
Mine, yes. Flush hours.
Well, when did you get him off the lease?
I'm not sure what year it was, but I don't think he was actually removed from the lease.
Okay.
I think he was made a different type of tenant.
And did you change the locks so that he couldn't get back in at the points in times when you kicked him out?
I did sometimes.
Okay. And then would you leave the key in the hiding spot that he was aware of?
There were multiple hiding places.
Okay. On any of the 911 calls, did you ever mention that Mr. Torres was aware of where you kept your keys and that's how he got back into the house?
I didn't know I needed to.
Okay.
He would never break into my home.
All right, and it's your testimony that you did not push him down the stairs, correct?
Yes.
And in fact, it was him that dragged you down the stairs the night before, correct?
Yes.
Now, by dragged, did you leave your feet?
Yes.
And did you get scrapes on your knees or anywhere from the carpet?
I'm not sure.
Did you get any injuries, like bruises or abrasions or scrapes?
I was missing a lot of my hair, yes, that was on the stairwell.
Okay. And you agree that you were photographed on February 24th when the police came out, correct?
The day of the incident?
Well, the afternoon after the incident. We're not sure when he passed.
Yes.
Some of those photographs showed ashtrays inside your house. I thought you said you guys couldn't smoke inside your house,
We couldn't.
but you did, right?
Sometimes, yes.
And you agree you would go to the hospital and tell them things that were not true, correct?
Yes.
There were times where you would go to the hospital and leave without getting treatment, correct?
Yes.
And is it fair to say that you often had alcohol in your system when you were going to the hospital, correct?
Sometimes.
All right, so just to summarize the day to make sure we understand it. You all wake up sometime in the morning, but it's an unknown time, correct? On February 23rd.
Or early afternoon. Yes, I had a problem with the detectives and them having me guesstimate times.
Okay. Are you the kind of person, like most of us, that uses your phone when you wake up?
No.
So the first activity on your phone may have nothing to do with when you woke up. Is that fair for you?
Yes, other than looking at the time possibly.
Okay. So, at some point you wake up, it doesn't sound like you have breakfast, correct?
Correct.
You do some chores, correct?
Yes.
So that is true. That part of it is true. You did do chores before going to Publix at 12:17?
Yes.
All right. After chores, you go to Publix and you get that 1.5 liter Magnum bottle of Woodbridge Chardonnay, correct?
I'm not sure what Magnum is.
1.5 liters. Instead of the 750s, it's the double size. It's like 2 bottles of wine.
Okay, yes.
So you got a 1.5 liter, right?
Yes, it is the larger bottle.
And you got home, and you at 100 pounds and Mr. Torres at 103 pounds began drinking this wine, correct?
I'm guessing so. I'm not going to guess times.
Well, don't guess. I mean, you got home from Publix. When was your first drink?
I'm not sure. I mean, we could have continued to do whatever was left over from what we didn't do before we went to Publix.
Okay. So you may have started drinking even later, correct?
Then
12:30 when you get back from Publix?
I don't know.
Okay. Was it 1:30 or 2:30 when you began drinking?
I don't know.
All right. Was it before any of the phone calls to the brothers and his daughters?
Yes.
And so you drink what's left in the bottle of wine from the day before that's halfway labeled, correct?
At some point.
And then you drink 1.5 liters of wine, and he goes out and gets another one on his own without your permission or suggestion about 5:30, correct?
Correct.
And then you all consume that one as well, and it ends up in the trash can at the end of the night, correct?
Apparently.
Okay. At what point in the night does your memory tape stop? Because you described that it wasn't on at 11:03 p.m. when that photograph was taken. What's the last thing you actually do remember prior to these videos being made?
I don't recall it at this point. I don't remember.
All right, and so it ends in hide and seek after arts and puzzles, correct?
Yes.
He says, tag, you're it, but you run and go upstairs and hide, right?
Yes.
So does that mean he's it and he's supposed to come find you?
No. That's
Okay.
just,
So you both hide?
no.
Okay. How does this work?
I don't know how to tell you.
Okay.
I was it and I went and hid.
I mean, my understanding of the rules of hide and seek is one person will be it, cover his or her eyes and count to like 20 and then go find the person that's hiding. Is that your familiarity with the rules too, or do you guys have house rules?
I understand how the
Okay.
game of hide and seek
So
works.
explain to me, what was your expectation? You go up to the shower, were you expecting him to come find you?
I was.
Okay. And after a while, he did not come find you.
Yes.
And that's when you return downstairs
Correct.
And because of the way your townhouse is set up, you can kind of see over where the suitcase is and that he's trying to hide in there, but it's not successfully hidden just yet.
I mean, yes, you have to come down a good ways in order to be able to.
Right,
do that.
right. But you saw, you testified that was before you got to the bottom.
Yes.
All right. And then you come over there and thinking that it's funny, you zip him shut, correct?
Yes, we both thought it was funny.
Okay. May the defendant stand down?
Entered into the well?
Yes.
Yes.
Go down.
Deputy, we release her into the well, please?
Do you need anything?
All right. Ms. Boone, can you demonstrate for the jury where Mr. Torres' head was and how his body was positioned in the suitcase, if you don't mind?
His back was this way and his head was here.
All right, and then is it fair to say his feet are kind of down here, which would be the front left corner from their perspective in the jury box?
Yes.
And then his knees are kind of tucked up towards his face?
If I remember correctly, yes, that's the position.
Okay. All right. Can you help me understand how it was that you zipped it shut? Can you show us where you say you left an opening that his hand got out of?
Would it be easier to put it on here?
I didn't want to make you go down there. If you're happy doing that, I'll let you.
Hold on. Does she need to be wearing gloves?
Yes. Agreed. If she's going to be manipulating it.
What do you want her to do?
Just demonstrate how she zipped it shut.
Okay, well, where's the paper clip? And do you remember where? Which one it was in?
This side.
Judge, the paperclip was on when this event occurred. When we pulled the suitcase out earlier, the paperclip was not attached. So now the prosecutor has attached the paperclip. We don't know if that's the way it was attached.
It's not even a paper clip.
We
Okay.
don't know if that's the proper way that it was attached. But he's asking her now to pull
Is there an objection?
Yes?
Approach. Objections overruled.
All right,
I feel most comfortable, sir.
Madam Clerk, are you ready? Can we see how it was that the two zipper parts were positioned when you say that Mr. Torres was able to get his hand out? If you want me to do it, I'm fine to take your direction.
From what I remember, this is how the suitcase works. This was up here. This was not this hard either. So this was like here,
Okay.
right here.
About right there, ma'am?
Sure.
I assume this one was much closer? It's not over there? Where did you?
You asked me where I zipped it.
When you say that it was zipped shut, show us.
Are you talking about how I zipped it, or?
When you're done zipping
With
it
the hole.
shut and he's inside of it, where are the zipper components?
Just tell me where it's at.
I mean, it was the corner. I mean, the corner was
It was right
kept
here?
open. I mean,
In here?
it's not. Yes,
Yes?
this one was already pre-attached, yes. From what I can remember. That's how he was coming with his hand out. It was like this from the corner part.
Okay. Thank you. You can return to your seat. Did you ever change the position of those zippers once you put it in that position?
I did not.
And so once he was zipped into there, there's some amount of time, but you don't remember specifically before you start taking the 2-minute video, correct?
Yes.
And then that's when you say what you say, and that's when he says what he says. We've all heard it, correct? And then between there and that second video of the 22 seconds length, it's at this point where he's beginning to get angry, and then that's when you take the baseball bat that's in evidence, and your testimony is you start poking him with the end of it.
Did you say this was the second video?
Between the two videos, that's when you started hitting him with the bat because he was getting angry and trying to escape, correct?
Right, I was not hitting him, yes.
Okay. Did you ever hit him with the bat while he was outside of the suitcase?
No.
So each time that he is hit with the bat, it's through this suitcase. And that's what leaves the marks on him because you didn't hit him with the bat outside the suitcase, correct?
Yes, if you'd like me to demonstrate.
No, that's okay. The suitcase will speak for itself. And then you take the second video and you go upstairs and go to bed, correct?
I apparently went upstairs and I used the phone to make a phone call,
Okay.
and then I fell asleep.
All right. And at the point in time when you left and went upstairs, he was still inside the suitcase, correct?
Correct.
Was he still asking for you and calling your name?
Not that I can recall.
Did you say shh to him again?
I don't remember.
Did you tell him that this was his problem and it's on you again?
I don't remember.
Did you do anything to help him escape from the predicament that you zipped him up in?
No.
No other questions?
Any redirect examination?
Ms. Boone, he just asked you the question that you poked him, and you didn't poke it. Every time you poked him hard with the bat, he was inside the briefcase,
The suitcase, yes.
the suitcase. But you remember when he put his hand out, did you not hit him in the hand outside the suitcase?
Yes.
Okay. So that was the only time the bat touched Mr. Torres's body outside the suitcase,
Yes.
was when you hit him with a hand. But all the other injuries were with you poking him pretty hard. I mean, you bruised your hand, correct? Doing that. Thank you.
Ma'am, you can return to counsel's table.
Judge, can we approach you?
Just a moment. Let me get her situated at table, and then we can approach.